The funny thing is, everyone in the world thinks they already know how Meghan met Harry. They repeat the same polished fairy tale introductions, pretend it was all fate and romance and candlelight dinners, but nobody ever asked the real question, the dangerous one. Not how Meghan met Harry, but what she carried with her when she walked into his life, and the person who said that wasn't some gossip columnist hiding behind a laptop. It came from someone who had watched everything from the shadows, someone who had seen her in the dim corners of Toronto's most exclusive, no-questions-asked hideouts. Someone who knew the nights that had to be erased by morning. Those words came from Markus Anderson. To the world, he was Meghan's elegant friend, the man with the perfect smile who escorted her to events and blended quietly into royal crowds like he belonged there. But long before the tiaras and press statements, Markus wasn't just a friend, he was something else, something far more dangerous. He was the gatekeeper to the world that shaped Meghan before Harry ever knew she existed, and that world was Soho House. Soho House wasn't a club. It wasn't a hotel. It was a sanctuary for the powerful, a playground for the untouchable. Behind its velvet ropes, reputations were currency, and secrets were the only language anyone truly trusted. You didn't ask questions there. You didn't bring your phone. You didn't breathe a word outside those walls unless you wanted your social life to evaporate overnight. And inside that world, Meghan wasn't just an actress. She wasn't a struggling star waiting for her big break. She was the heartbeat of the nightlife, the woman who kept the night alive when everyone else was fading. She knew who to call, what to bring, and how to make sure everyone got exactly what they wanted without ever saying a word out loud. Meghan didn't just attend the parties, she crafted them. The laughter, the champagne, the reckless indulgence, all moving around her like she was conducting the entire room. And Markus? He was the one who stood quietly behind her, making sure everything looked effortless, making sure nobody ever looked too closely. By the time Prince Harry entered the picture, Meghan knew indulgence like a second language. Toronto's elite circles already saw her as the woman who could walk into any room and own it without even trying. She disarmed people. She drew them in. And when Harry visited her in 2016, it wasn't just a romantic escape. It was freedom. A type of freedom he hadn't felt in years. Away from palace eyes. Away from royal duty. Meghan created a world where he could breathe. But Markus knew better than anyone that secrecy always has a price. Because behind the fairy tale love story was something more dangerous. A bond built not on destiny, but on risk. Markus saw the parts the public never saw, the late nights no one dared to talk about, the runs that had to be covered before the sun came up, the favors that cost more than money. He knew that if Meghan's Soho House past ever spilled into the open, it wouldn't just reshape her image, it would twist the royal story itself into something unrecognizable. The truth didn't begin with a wedding dress or an engagement ring. It began long before that. It began in the nights nobody talks about. It was 2016. Meghan's Hollywood hopes weren't enough anymore. She had stepped into something bigger, something far more intoxicating than fame. She had become the silent ruler of Soho House Toronto, the place where actors, billionaires, politicians, and influencers came to finally let go. No phones, no questions. And when the night started to slip into dullness, people turned to Meghan because she always knew how to bring it back to life. Behind closed doors, insiders whispered the real story, the one nobody was supposed to repeat. The real menu wasn't cocktails and appetizers, it was sharper, faster, delivered discreetly, arranged without hesitation. And Meghan wasn't a bystander in that world. She was the connector. She was the one people trusted when the night needed fuel. She knew who wanted what, how much they could handle, and exactly how to keep it quiet. Her value wasn't just her smile or her charm. It was access. Pure, unfiltered access. And at the center of that world was Markus Anderson. He watched her rise, watched her navigate the rooms, watched her build a network strong enough to protect her if anything ever went wrong, and something did go wrong. That infamous Toronto night. The night no one will fully talk about. The night that almost blew everything open. It started like a normal gathering. Harry had flown in quietly. No paparazzi. No leaks. Just a private evening among friends. The room was dim, the music soft, the drinks flowing. But behind the laughter, the insiders knew exactly what kind of night it was. A run. And in Toronto nightlife, that didn't mean hopping from bar to bar. It meant indulgence. It meant substances. It meant things that could end careers if the wrong person walked in. Meghan wasn't simply enjoying the night, she was making things happen. She was keeping it alive, just as she always had. The same way she had on her Jamaican wedding trip years earlier, where she rolled 100 joints for guests like it was nothing. She controlled the vibe. She protected the atmosphere. She made everyone feel safe while they crossed the line they would never admit crossing. But then someone mentioned a name, Princess Eugenie. Not because she was there, but because she was supposed to be. Just the whisper of a royal name in a night like that was enough to send a chill across across the room. If even a rumor tied a royal relative to that kind of party, it wouldn't just stain Meghan's reputation, it would embarrass the entire monarchy. Something happened. A close call, a scare, maybe even a near bust. No one will confirm what exactly went wrong, but everyone agrees it was bad. Bad enough that by sunrise, everything had been wiped clean. No photos, no witnesses willing to talk, no traces left behind. And the name that surfaced after that, the name whispered with a mixture of gratitude and fear, was Markus Anderson, the man who could make anything disappear, the man who protected the powerful without ever asking for credit or forgiveness. To the outside world, Meghan Markle was living the dream, a Hollywood actress dating a prince, a woman on the brink of her own royal fairy tale. But inside Soho House, Markus saw something entirely different. He saw the woman beneath the glossy photos and filtered Instagram posts. The woman who didn't just step into a new world, she studied it, molded it, and shaped it exactly the way she wanted. To her old Hollywood friends, Meghan was still the ambitious actress hustling for the next big script. To her Toronto circle, she was the glamorous insider who always knew the right names to drop and the right rooms to walk into. And to Harry, she became something he didn't even realize he needed. She became his escape, his protector, his secret keeper. Harry had spent his entire life being watched, judged, photographed, flattered, criticized, caged in gold. What he craved wasn't fame or influence. What he wanted was freedom, and Meghan knew exactly how to create the illusion of it. She had done it for actors, for elites, for friends who needed a world where they could feel untouchable. Meghan knew how to build a bubble where someone felt free while she quietly controlled every detail inside it. Markus watched this shift unfold long before anyone else even sensed it. He saw how Meghan positioned herself right where Harry felt safest, away from royal expectations, away from protocol, away from the suffocating pressure of being a Windsor. She guided him through Toronto's hidden corners like she'd rehearsed it 100 times. And in a way, she had. This was her stage, her world, her expertise. Harry didn't understand that Meghan wasn't improvising. She was orchestrating, and Markus recognized the pattern instantly. He'd watched her orchestrate countless nights, countless personalities, countless versions of herself. He knew she had mastered the soft power of influence long before she stepped into the palace. As her relationship with Harry deepened, something else began to slowly surface. Something Markus noticed immediately, even if the rest of the world didn't. People around her started to disappear. Not dramatically, not with fights, quietly, smoothly, strategically. Friends from Suits stopped hearing from her. Old contacts she used to party with in Toronto no longer got the late-night texts, the invitations, the updates. Even family members, the ones who had known her before Hollywood fame, were quietly pushed aside. It wasn't anger, it wasn't a fallout, it was a pattern. When Meghan moved into a new chapter of her life, she didn't bring the past with her. She trimmed it away piece by piece until the only people left were the ones who fit the story she wanted to tell. Markus watched it happen like a man who had seen the same movie before, and yet even he wasn't prepared for how quickly she turned the page. Her social media changed first. The playful captions became softer, almost poetic. The photos turned elegant, curated, gentle. The wild nights at Soho House faded. Every trace of the old Meghan, the parties, the people who had seen her raw and unfiltered, began to vanish. And in their place, a duchess was forming. It wasn't a coincidence, it wasn't instinct, it was deliberate. It was methodical. Meghan didn't reinvent herself. She erased the version she didn't need anymore. She built a new persona every time she crossed into a new world, and she made sure nobody could drag the old one back into the light. Markus had always respected Meghan's ambition, but now he began to realize something deeper, something more unsettling. She wasn't just transforming. She was disappearing into the new character she was creating. And then came the public cracks. The small inconsistencies that normal people overlook, but insiders never ignore. In one interview, she said she never Googled Harry before meeting him. In another, she described his life, his habits, and his philanthropic work with a level of familiarity that didn't match her earlier claim. She said she felt isolated in Britain, unable to leave the house, cut off from the world. Yet travel records showed her flying to New York, Amsterdam, Italy, and Los Angeles within months. She spoke about honesty and transparency, yet the palace soon began quietly rewriting her official biography. Her double major? Removed. Her list of humanitarian roles? Edited. Her fluency in multiple languages? Gone. Bit by bit, the palace peeled away the image she had carefully crafted. Markus saw the symbolism instantly. It wasn't about facts. It was about truth. The palace wasn't attacking her. They were correcting the story she had built on her own. For the first time, the mask Meghan had worn so effortlessly began to slip. Not enough for the public to notice, but enough for someone like Markus, who had watched her shapeshift for years, to feel a familiar tension rising because Markus Anderson had spent his life in the business of secrets. His silence was legendary. His loyalty Loyalty was currency. He knew how to protect the powerful, and he knew what it cost to keep their stories buried, but silence isn't weightless. It gathers, it grows heavier, and eventually even loyalty begins to crack when the story becomes too big, too twisted, too impossible to keep carrying alone. He had seen Meghan charm entire rooms. He had seen her orchestrate nights like a conductor. He had seen her shed versions of herself like they were costumes she no longer needed. He had seen her rise, fall, rise again, reinvent and rewrite reality itself. And now, when he finally spoke, not through accusations but through quiet truths, the world leaned in. Markus didn't describe Meghan as a villain. He described her as a strategist, a woman who had turned survival into an art form, a woman who never tripped by accident because every step she took was already planned, a woman who studied doors before she knocked, who rehearsed stories before she told them, who built relationships not by chance but by calculation. And that's why his words cut deeper than any tabloid headline. Because Markus wasn't a stranger. He wasn't a journalist hungry for clicks. He wasn't a critic with an agenda. He was the one person who had been there, the man who watched her rise from the shadows, the man who guarded her secrets, the man who saw her build herself piece by piece until the real woman had been layered beneath the performance. And when he finally revealed what he knew, it wasn't loud. It was quiet. It was haunting. It was real. Because Markus Anderson didn't destroy Meghan's legend. He simply reminded the world that behind every polished image is a human being, and behind every human being is a story no one was ever supposed to tell.